Welcome back to the Early Weigh-In podcast. After a week off, we are back for UFC Paris. Main event, Nasruddin Imavov taking on Kyle Borralho. Potentially number one contender fight. Incredible fight in the middleweight division. And then, man, taking a step down the 155, BSD, Benoit Saint Denis, and Mauricio Rufy. Fight I'm incredibly excited for. Should be fireworks. 14 fights for us to get into, man. So it's not wasting any time. Get into that. We always recap last week, which was 2 weeks ago, UFC Shanghai. I did go minus 2.8 units. Went over 3 of my money lines. All plus money, but missed on Mahashate and Dyer pretty easily. Then I hit on my parlay of Pavlovich and then the under 1.5 and then Niraj Kiefer Crosby fight. The one I left out, most salty about, the Long Zhao fight, man. Without a doubt, lost round 1, but I don't know, man. I still salty because I felt like that was one of the easier fights to score. I thought round 2 and round 3 were clearly in his favor. Would have been a positive night. Minus 2.8 units for me. Happy to have already made it back with the last 2 weeks of Contender Series, but that one stung a bit, man. Missing on Long Zhao hurt. I thought he clearly won that one. So looking to bounce back this week, keep it green. Toss it over to you, man, which was a pretty short night for you.
Yeah, I just took one little shot on Weston Wilson. Unfortunately, he looked like a plus 830, but I was taking that swing for like 21 units or something for 1 unit risk. And, truth be told, I think I hit that eventually. Obviously, he came out there with maybe the worst game plan I've ever seen, not even taking a single shot and trying to stand on the feet with Yiza. But is what it is. Minus 1 unit. I didn't like much on the card, and I guess I was technically up to watch most of it, but still not a card that I felt a lot of confidence about. So I was perfectly fine with just taking a small home run shot. And kind of like you touched on, we've both been doing pretty well in the Contender Series to make that back up already. So got a good attitude moving into this week, where we start off in the strawweight. Oh, I'm going to finish minus 1 unit. Whatever. Starting off this week in the strawweight division, Shauna Bannon taking on Sam Hughes. I agree more with the opening line than I do with how the line has gotten to this point. Sam Hughes is all the way up to like minus 385. And just by the looks of it, it looks like she's probably going to continue to climb. I agree that she should win this fight, but historically, she's the type of fighter who is super grindy, takes a lot of shots before she starts really having success. And, she's pretty small and not great everywhere. She's a pretty decent grappler, but we've seen her just kind of outskilled plenty of times. I think she's a great litmus test for fighters. And I do think that it's going to be a tough matchup for Shauna Bannon. I feel like Shauna Bannon, I thought that she was going to be even a little overrated after getting that submission win over Pooja Tumar. I thought that was kind of a lucky scenario, but she does have a good body for the weight class. She's long and lanky, and she likes to use her range. And I feel like maybe early Sam Hughes could have some trouble finding that range, as she does have to kind of just like work her way inside, and it never looks super pretty. So I wouldn't be surprised if Shauna Bannon could throw some of those side kicks or land a few of the more damaging shots in a round and steal a round off of Sam Page Hughes. But I do ultimately think that Sam Page will be able to get inside the range, work a little bit of that grindy grappling of hers, and come out on top in a decision. But it's just not something I'm looking to lay minus 380 for. Give me a 29-28 Sam Page.
Yeah, never laying minus 300 on Sam Hughes. I texted you, I think yesterday, when I was like, has she ever been a favorite? And I did go back and look, and first time in her UFC career that she's a favorite. So always the dog. Don't ever like seeing that at minus 300. But I think this is probably one of the, if not the most generous fight she's ever had in the UFC, man. I don't think Shauna Bannon offers much resistance in terms, in terms of power to tier Sam Page. I don't think Sam's going to have any issue closing those distance, be scared to close the distance, just grind her up on the cage, and then mix in those takedowns. And when she's on top, man, she's active. she has good ground and pound. She's got decent submissions. I'm not counting out in the finish. I again probably wouldn't lay it, but I kind of agree that Sam Hughes should be a pretty decently sized favorite here. So I'm all right with it, man. No interest whatsoever in the dog. All Sam Page for me here. Moving on up to 170, Renat Fakardinov taking on Andreas Gustafsson. I don't know, man. This is another one where it's like, the exact opposite of Sam Page. Renat's always a 2, 3, 4-1 favorite, and here he is, potentially sitting at plus money for a guy who wants to grapple him, and Renat might be the better grappler, the better wrestler, and especially, early on, I think he's a better striker. I think he can hurt Gustafsson. I feel like Renat round one, he probably takes, but his cardio, it's proven to take a dump, man, and round three is probably going to go to Andreas Gustafsson if he's still there. So probably going to keep my hands clean, just ultimately going to pass. But I do think it gets tricky where Gustafsson's main path is grappling the guy who I think might be the better grappler and the better wrestler and maybe be able to match him in the clinch. I don't know. So I'm going to slide with Renat Vakardinov. Not ever so, not real confident, but yeah, give me Renat.
Yeah, so we're winding up on the same side, but me with a lot more confidence than you. I think Renat's just a better fighter all around. I think there's some recency bias on Andreas Gustafsson. He gave a really cool post-fight interview. We kind of talked about just that moving forward pressure, but in a 3-round fight against a much more technical fighter in Renat Fakardinov, I think this is a really easy buy low spot for a Russian grappler against a European grappler. And, I think that this is kind of a great stylistic matchup because it should be grappling heavy, and I think that Renat's a better grappler. Andreas Gustafsson, he was the underdog coming in against Chaos Williams, and I've never been a huge fan of Chaos Williams. I thought that he was a pretty mediocre MMA fighter with a decent right hand, or decent hands, I guess, in general. And if he's not able to find the knockout, he was really susceptible to just getting outworked in MMA. So I'm happy to take Renat Fakardinov at plus money. I'm curious to see how far this line will go. I know that he started off as a favorite and is now flipped to the underdog, but I think that this is a pretty easy Fakardinov should be like a minus 150, something like that, and we're getting plus money on him. So easy pull the trigger for me. I think he's the better fighter all around. Give me Renat Fakardinov here.
I like it.
Moving on to the middleweight division, we have Brad Tavares taking on Robert Brajcek. I don't know, dude. This is I wanted to bet Robert Brajcek here, but I do think he's a little bit flat-footed, a little slow. And even though Brad Tavares is, 37, going on 38 years old, I do like him to kind of just grind this fight out, very Brad Tavares style. Right. I think he'll outwork him just a little bit. I think that he's a little bit better grappler. If it stays standing, I think that he's going to be able to avoid the power shots of Robert Brajcek. And I just wasn't too impressed after looking at the tape. I think he's kind of missed the best parts of his career at 35 years old in the UFC. And he hasn't shown me too much to want to back him here, even as a plus 170, plus 190 dog some places. Give me Brad Tavares here. Not a ton of conviction because he's going to have to, be perfect over 15 minutes. But I think that he has it in him to pull another one out. This is one of the easier matchups he could have gotten at 185 pounds. Give me Brad Tavares here by decision.
Yeah. I'm going to come out on the same side, man. I do think Robert losing a decision to Ihor Potieria is baked into the line, because Robert is definitely probably the one with more finishing upside, clearly more power early in the fight, and the one who's not clearly digressing, in their career and losing durability. So I kind of understand anybody wanting to take that shot, but man, in almost 30 UFC fights, this would be the worst guy by a long shot that Brad's ever lost to. So ultimately, if the durability holds up, he's reliable to keep the fight standing. He's got pretty reliable volume. And so, yeah, I kind of like him to just outwork Robert over the course of 15 minutes. Maybe it's hairy round 1, But yeah, I like Brad Tavares. I like Brad Tavares by decision. Moving down to 170, Sam Patterson taking on Trey Waters, both big 170ers. Sam Patterson, super impressive, knocking out Danny Barlow last time, beating him to the punch. A fight everybody kind of thought was tailor made for Danny Barlow to knock out Sam Patterson. Sam Patterson, while putting together a pretty good win streak lately, he's kind of more known for getting slept, in his debut than his performances lately. I do think compared to Trey Waters here that Sam Patterson is just honestly the better mixed martial artist. He might not be the better pure boxer, but I think he has a wider variety of strikes. And if he's able to get this fight to the ground, I think he could honestly make quick work of Trey Waters. Trey Waters, he's done good with his size and length with guys like Billy Golf and Josh Quinlan, but man, I don't think those guys have the ability of Sam Patterson to get the fight to the mat. And once the fight were to be there, I don't think they have the size, the control of the jiu-jitsu or anything of Sam. So yeah, man, I like Sam Patterson here. I'm not eager to lay close to 2-1, but I'm all right with him being a decent favorite. I like the Sam Patterson side.
Yeah, so I'm just not convinced that Sam Patterson's jiu-jitsu is as good as it was on the regional scene. And then I think submitting Kiefer Crosby and Lioness is kind of being overrated. What was that?
It doesn't show much.
What was that? Yeah, it doesn't show much at all. And then the Danny Barlow fight, hard to take away much from that as well. The 2 wins from Trey Waters, I at least know that he can go into, no pun intended, but deep waters. I had him versus Billy Goff. I had him by decision against Billy Goff. And, man, dude, that dude's toughness proved a lot to me. And I think he's kind of getting knocked right here because he gets submitted by Gabriel Bonfim. Well, Bonfim's, in my opinion, twice the grappler of Sam Patterson. I think that these guys are pretty even on the feet, and I love the toughness coming out of the water side. I do think that this is more of a coin flip matchup, so this is dog or pass for me. I wouldn't be surprised if I, see this line continue to climb if I find myself on the Trey Waters side just for a unit, because I think that this is much closer to a 50-50 fight. Not a ton of conviction, but it's a similar body type. I think they're not going to be on the ground very much, and on the feet, I kind of like Trey Waters a little bit better. Sam Patterson does get a little, opens up some defensive holes whenever he gets excited on the feet. I think Trey Waters could capitalize. So give me Trey Waters here. Not really sure how he does it, but I think that this is a close fight and he's the dog. Give me Trey Waters. Moving on to Caio Fernandez taking on Harry Hardwick. Watched some Harry Hardwick tape coming into this and was not too impressed, to be honest with you. I think the most impressive thing about him is his chin. He can certainly take a shot. He can overwhelm fighters as well, but I don't think that Fernandez is going to give him that opportunity. Fernandez's distance control is pretty elite, and I think he's probably going to be able to keep him at bay. Hardwick took this fight on short notice, and I'm not sure that he would have gotten the call to the UFC if he didn't take a short notice fight. So although I wish him the best, I think he is a little bit overpowered here against Caio Fernandez. And I'm trying to look at the line right here. You got one up for me?
I think Caio Fernandez was like minus 150.
Yeah, he's looking like he's minus 170. Yeah, I like him, honestly. I don't have much hope for Harry Hardwick on Saturday or in the UFC in general. Right. I wouldn't be surprised if I lay 2 units on Fernandez or throw him into a parlay with somebody else that I like so I can get plus money. I'm on the Fernandez side, though.
Don't know how much more I can add to it, man. I really wasn't impressed on the Harry Hardwick side either. I don't think he offers much grappling or high pace to kind of wear on Fernandez down the stretch and on the feet. I think Fernandez is a bit faster, a bit longer, just the better striker. And so being the one prepared to fight on Saturday, I don't think it's a bad number, like the Caio Fernandez side as well. Moving up to 265, man, big boys. Marcin Tybura taking on Ante Delija. Guys who honestly kind of fight a little bit similar in my eyes. Love to kind of mix things up, get the fight down. Delija's a bit more dangerous, and that's kind of what's keeping me off. I think wanting to play Tybura here is early on. Delija, I think he has a lot of finishing upside early in this fight. I do think he's probably, I don't want to say the better striker, but definitely going to land the more impactful shots where Tybura likes to kind of use the footwork, play on the outside. Man, if we can get this fight into round 2, into round 3, I would not be shocked if Marcin's able to find himself on top. And I don't like really what I see from the bottom game from Delija, so I think that's a round if Marcin gets on top. I think Marcin's got the superior cardio as well, and so haven't done it yet, man. Curious to see if some movement comes in closer to fight time, but this is Tybura pass for me pretty easily.
Yeah, so same. Like, I think that there's a decent shot that Delija gets his shots off early and can make this a quick night. But pretty much every other scenario, I think Tybura really starts to wear him down and ends up banking a few rounds. So Tybura by decision, sitting at like anywhere from 225 to 250, 260 in some places. I think that's how I'd look to play this fight. I see this going over 2.5. In any other scenario, put a Delija early finish. So give me Tybura by decision. I definitely like that route if I'm going to be playing this fight, which I probably am not, full disclosure. Now we move on to the 205-pound division. Omar Sy taking on Brandon Ribeiro. Omar Sy let a lot of people down in his last fight against Alonzo Minifield. I actually expected him coming back to be a little bit more closely lined, considering he kind of dropped the ball. But the UFC gave him a pretty favorable matchup here against Brandon Ribeiro, who is notorious for being a stepping stone for most UFC fighters. I think that this is a really good bounce back spot, if I'm being honest with you. I think Omar Sy, after going to decision with Da Un Jung and dropping this one to Alonzo Minifield, has something to prove in this one. And I wouldn't be surprised if he did be a little bit more active to find a finish in this fight. Let's see, the Sy inside the distance, minus 155. Can't do anything with it, dude. I'm out on this fight entirely. Hopefully he comes back, fights a good fight, gets the job done inside the distance. But this is a sit back and see where he's at this point type of fight.
So 100% agree. Umar Sy all day. One of the more generous matchups. Umar Sy, just honestly one of the best athletes on the roster. And his ability to land takedowns, I think the takedowns come absolutely free here, man. What I'm a little, I guess, could maybe disagree with you on is coming off that first loss, maybe he's a little bit more hesitant here. He didn't get knocked out or anything, but maybe he is a little bit more hesitant. I get what you're saying. He's in his home country, easy matchup. Would love and wouldn't be shocked if he's able to find the back and a finish. But I'm not really impressed with his ground and pound. And Brandon Ribeiro, in 25 fights, he's been submitted twice, but been a minute. I just feel like there's potential for a real stinker of just 13 minutes of top time for Umar Sy here. So I'm not really sold on a finish, but I don't really see how Umar Sy loses this fight, man. I really don't. So Umar Sy, easy pick for me.
I've just seen the quit in Brandon Ribeiro, So I could see Sy taking advantage of that, I guess, is where my mindset goes, that he could get this done inside the distance.
I like it. Prelim main event, Paris' own William Gomes, always on the card, taking on Robert Luchala. I'll be honest with you, man. I really like the Robert Luchala guy. I think he's going to be in the UFC for a while and will get wins. I think he just drew one of the trickiest guys to fight in his division, man. Luchala is a very well-rounded guy. I can't say he's just great anywhere. His grappling's a bit better than his striking, but I do think he's really good everywhere. His one loss comes to Saladin Parnasse, maybe one of the best guys not signed by the UFC right now at a KSW. I think Luchala has to land takedowns to make this close, and in a big cage, somebody with the footwork of William Gomes, the defensive tendencies that he has, it's just a tough fight, man. And William Gomes is a smart fighter, knows, when he's going to let his hands go, he can. He's got sneaky offensive wrestling himself. Being in Paris, I don't necessarily agree from him going from like minus 180, minus 190, all the way up to minus 260. So it's kind of hard for me not to play Robert, but I do feel like Gomes should be a slight favorite here, man. So trying to, I don't know, try not to force something. I'm going to go William Gomes by decision. I just think we're getting to a point where you can play Robert if the line gets out of whack.
Yeah, so I'm winding up on the same side. I actually like William Gomes. For whatever reason, I think he's kind of boring, but he usually finds a way to win. The Francis Marshall fight is what sold me. I think Marshall is one of the more underrated grapplers in the division, and I think that best case scenario for Robert is he makes this fight close, but in a fight where he's not able to secure a lot of top time, which I don't think he's going to be able to do because Gomes is good at getting back to his feet. I think he kind of just gets picked apart here on the feet, loses a decision. I wouldn't even be surprised with a Gomes knockout. He's one of these guys who hasn't really been able to find much success finishing in the UFC, but this is one of the guys that I feel like he could find a lot of success on the feet and start to get those desperation shots out of and really start to land something that could connect. Unfortunately, they're at the featherweight division. They really like to go to decision, so I'm probably not going to be betting any Gomes inside the distance or anything, but I think he's kind of primed for it here against Robert, who I think will become predictable over the course of 15 minutes. So give me William Gomes here. I hate the price tag as well, though.
Yeah.
Gomes is the lean for me. I think he should be minus 200. Anything above that, I'm not really a fan of. Moving on to the main card opener, staying in the same weight class. We're at 145 pounds. Patricio Pitbull taking on Losine Kieta. Man, after watching Kieta's tape, he is one of the more impressive specimens I've seen fight in a really long time. I'm glad that the UFC signed him. And truth be told, I think he's kind of being a little overrated here. He looks great on the regional scene, and he is, a super fast, super athletic striker. But maybe Patricio Pitbull is still got it. He's 38 years old, but the bounce back fight against Dan Ige told me that maybe Yair was just too much to take on in his opening UFC fight. But he looked good against Dan Ige. I think he could look good here against Kieta, who might be a little overrated just judging by the regional scene. I think if Pitbull was fighting similar fighters that Kieta was, that he looks pretty similar coming up the ranks. So I think this fight is closer than the odds suggest. Give me Patricio Pitbull or pass here. Likely a pass, though. I don't really love betting on a 38-year-old who's fighting one of the most athletic prospects I've seen in a minute.
I agree. All the possibility of a potential fraud check and things here. Patricio Pitbull's got all the experience in the world and some grappling chops that he could really, really fall back onto here if he wanted to give himself the best chance to win this fight. I just feel like Kieta's just, like you said, man, a physical specimen, just too much, too fast on the feet. Like this guy's, the Octagon, I think it is, lightweight champion. Like, he's fighting at 155, whereas Patricio Pitbull was 2-3 years ago making 135, and getting knocked out and risen by not that good a competition, man. Like Kieta's not making 135 pounds. Dude is jacked. Dude is a 145 Umar C, and I feel like the speed, the striking at this point is going to be a little bit too much for the 38-year-old. Pitbull's been real active this year as well. Another thing. So, I can't say that his body is 100% healthy. He's a bunch of weight cuts, back-to-back fight camps and things. And I don't know, feels like let's get Kieta a known name, in Europe. I don't know. I like Kieta. I won't be laying minus 200, though. Reese McKee, Alex Sola at 170. This is a dog I'm kind of interested in, man, on the Reese McKee side. Um, Alex Sola is a pretty good grappler, and I do think that's his best way to win. But I'm just not sold that he is going to be able to offensively grapple and put together what I think is going to be a very clean 15 minutes to do so. Because Reese McKee is not going to quit on himself, man. Reese McKee's a dog. He's going to fight for your money. He's the natural 170er here. Alex Sola's coming up on short notice. I've seen stuff on Twitter about this guy having staph infection as well. I think Reese McKee's the better striker. And when I look at who, Reese McKee is out here losing to, I guess Alex Morono. I mean, sure. It's 2020. It's never really a crazy good look, but like Hamzat, Cheaty, these are 185ers. These are guys who have tried to make 170 and can, but killed themselves, have missed weight, like massive guys. Now you're getting a guy coming up to 170. I also read McKee, I didn't see any cancellations, but I was seeing somewhere McKee kind of knew he was going to be on this card. He just really didn't know who his opponent was going to be. So I don't know, man. All things point to plus money being the side for me on Reese McKee. Maybe France guy, Sola gets some love and I can get a better number. But yeah. Reese McKee for me, man.
So I feel like if this fight was taking place at 155 pounds, or if Alex Sola wouldn't had just made that weight cut a few months ago, he's even a bigger favorite, dude. I like Reese McKee. I think he pushes a great pace, but I don't really see Sola slowing down. I do think that he's going to have some grappling success. And then even on the feet, I think he's a way faster fighter. He throws really long, straight punches. And Reese McKee has an affinity for getting punched in the face, dude. Like, I think he doesn't wear damage well. He's got super pale skin, so the strikes really show up whenever they land. And I'm not sure that he's going to be able to finish Axel Sola here. So, yeah, I think the weight is somewhat of an issue. Bringing up the staph, somewhat of an issue. But take those two things out of the equation. Reese McKee isn't necessarily the most physical guy at 170 pounds. So I think that this is one of the easier matchups as far as, being a little bit undersized, but still having the length at 170 pounds that Sola could be debuting at. Plus, we're in France. I think he's a better fighter than Reese McKee and certainly has a much higher ceiling than McKee does. So give me him at hopefully even odds. I'd love for him to become a dog because I've heard a lot of people on the McKee side. McKee's just like not the fighter that I want to bet. Just in general, he's just not the type of guy I want to bet. Maybe if he's a massive dog, but here at these type of pick 'em odds, I just kind of feel dumb if he goes out there and pulls a normal Reese McKee fight. I thought he did awesome last fight, coming back and being able to get the dub, but maybe a little bit overvalued here. And I think a lot of people are weighing a ton on the weight issue here for Sola. I think he's the better fighter, so I'm going to pick him here. Moving up to 155 pounds, Balaji Oki taking on Mason Jones. I feel like this is another fight where Mason is kind of getting knocked for the Jeremy Stephens performance. He obviously should have gone out there and wiped the floor with Jeremy Stephens, but Stephens, even though he's old, still proves he's a dog, man. I think Mason Jones is the better fighter here. I was trying to fade Balaji Oki against Medeiros in his last fight before that fight got scrapped. I'm probably looking to fade him again here against Mason Jones. Obviously, Oki's probably going to give me some tight butthole moments. He's super athletic. He throws super hard. And Mason will probably get caught on one of the entries. But I think outside of the one moment that Oki is able to land a significant strike that could be a fight ender, Mason Jones is going to dominate here. Give me Jones probably by decision again. And you're going to be clinching for at least one moment in the fight. But I think Mason Jones is the better fighter, so I'll be backing him here.
You really had me scared earlier when you had texted me and said that you were interested in some slight dogs. I was really hoping it wasn't Balaji Oki. I'm all over Mason Jones here, man. I think, like you said, last fight baked into it a ton, man. You know, he's coming back to the UFC. He kind of like left, didn't think he was ready. He's coming back. Ton of pressure, man. Not only that, you're coming back to fight Jeremy Stephens in his hometown, a guy who has crazy knockout power. And when Mason Jones wanted to make it easy, he could with the grappling, man. And so I think a guy in front of him, a Balaji Oki, he looks intimidating, but I don't think he's that great of an athlete. I don't think he's crazy fast. I don't think he has a ton of power. I think Jeremy Stephens offered way more trouble for Mason Jones. Jeremy Stephens is willing to sell out, to knock your head off. And I don't know. I just don't feel like Pelagioki's that good. And Mason Jones has very, very good grappling and could make this fight very easy. So I think Mason Jones should be north of 63% here. And so myself included, plan to have a bet on Mason Jones. I love to hear that. Feature bout, Modestas Bukauskas taking on Paul Craig. Look, man, Paul Craig, really wants to be an intimidating fighter, gets in your face in the weigh-ins and, screams at you. But when he gets in the cage, he's just, if he doesn't pull off some Hail Mary submission, he's not a good striker, doesn't really have good cardio, doesn't push a good pace. And even his wrestling, I mean, to be able to get the fight down, it's not good. And so at this stage in his career, I think he's a finished product. He's one-dimensional. If you haven't figured out how to beat Paul Craig yet, I don't know what's wrong with you. Modestas Bukauskas, a guy who kind of gets some shit. He's kind of like Brad Tavares, not very dangerous, but I do think he's in his prime. He's one of these guys who, was in the UFC, got cut, did his time on the regional scene, got his finishes, been training with the Tom Aspinall camp. I think we've seen clear improvements on the Modestas Bukauskas side, and he is deserving of a big favorite price here. Would be shocked if he loses to Paul Craig. Unsure, if he truly gets the finish or not, just because of, you never know, man. He, again, not the most dangerous fighter. Paul Craig's also not the most durable guy either. So I wouldn't be shocked if Modestas TKOs him. Wouldn't be shocked if he takes him to decision, but I would be shocked if he loses this one here, man.
Yeah, so I'm actually a Modestas Bukauskas believer. I think I've been on him in his last 3 fights in the UFC that he's won, and I was happy to get him at the plus money against Ian Cutelaba. For Paul Craig, it's one of these fighters where he is always dangerous. He's submitted much better fighters than Modestas Bukauskas, and in a weird way, it does feel like this is around the time that Modestas Bukauskas is going to kind of drop the ball in a fight that he definitely should win. And I wouldn't be surprised if Paul Craig is able to pull one more out. Bukauskas, although I like him, I believe in him and his resurgence. He is not the fighter that I want to lay minus 350 on. And in the weight class like 205, where the margin of error is extremely small, I think that this is kind of primed for Paul Craig to go out there and give us one more submission win. Bukauskas been heel hooked before in a submission, and we're getting that plus 500 territory for the only path to victory of Paul Craig. This is Paul Craig's sub or pass if I've ever seen it, dude. I don't love it. I'll probably have half a unit on it. Can't help myself. So, yeah, give me Paul Craig by submission. The plus 500 numbers, just too much to pass up on, and it's about time he finds that, Plus, one thing I did like to see, even though I'm blanking on who he fought last. Let's see, who did Paul Craig fight last? Yeah, even though he lost against Borralho, he shot a couple times. He had a couple of good takedown attempts there. And, maybe somebody in Modestas Bukauskas could, even if he winds up on top of him, I wouldn't be surprised if Bukauskas stuffs a takedown, accepts being on top of Paul Craig, and then finds himself in a shit situation because he spent too much time on the ground thinking that he was safe in top control. So, give me Modestas to lay an egg out there and Paul Craig to capitalize on it. Moving on to the co-main event, we have Benoit Saint-Denis taking on Mauricio Rufy. So I wanted to come in here betting Benoit Saint-Denis really badly. I love his tenacity when he fights. I think he's a really tough fighter. And then I also think that Rufy's a little bit overrated, simply coming from fighting nerds and getting a few highlight reel knockouts. It's going to be tough to ever find a good price tag on him. I am super hesitant, though. I think Benoit Saint Denis is going to go out there and want to bang early. And I think Rufy's just accurate enough that he's going to step back and land a kill shot on Benoit pretty early. It's close otherwise, but I think that there's high potential that he goes out there and flatlines Benoit Saint Denis, who I think, if anything, is probably, and I know that this sounds crazy, but probably hit his ceiling. And I don't know if his career is going to go up from this point. I think this is Rufy or pass. And if I had to find a way to play this fight to make it juicy, it'd probably be Rufy by TKO or Rufy TKO 1 maybe. You're getting like plus 100 on Rufy TKO. Rufy TKO 1 is plus 325. I'd play it that way if I was going to touch it at all, but that's how I see the fight going.
We see the fight pretty similar, man, and I wanted to bet BSD as well. And I do think there's a world where Mauricio Rufy does get, does his ass tank get zapped and BSD just cooks him down the stretch, lands some nasty body kicks, makes him work, takes him down, makes him get back up, gets the back. I do think there's a world for that, man, but he's got to get there, and early on in this fight, dude, I'm with you, dude. He's going to probably be getting lit up. And I do think Mauricio Rufy, if gun to the head, how I think this fight's going down, I think the speed, the athleticism, the counterability is just too much at this point. And I think Mauricio Rufy's going to find the early KO. I hate saying that because I really like BSD. He's one of my favorite guys to watch. I tell you every single time we bring him up, when you cashed him against one of the Bonfim brother. One of my favorite bets you've ever made. So, yeah, I like the dude. I do think he could get on top and cook Rufy down the stretch, but there's really not any evidence of Rufy on his back and what he looks like when I was trying to go through tape. So it's kind of unknown. But what's not unknown is BSD has zero striking defense and comes forward like a marauder. It's at a significant speed disadvantage and is probably going to get slept early in this fight. I do have the under 2.5 parlayed with the over 2.5 in our main event here. Nasruddin Imavov taking on Kyle Borralho at 185. I was really hoping to snag a middleweight, goes the distance at plus money. Had to figure out another way to play it though. Middleweight overs, something that I can't keep my hands off of. These guys, to me, we've had this argument for years. Middleweight's just that weight class to me that these guys are in like peak condition, walking into the cage at 205, 210 on fight night and are just ultra durable, man. Have the power to hurt people, but also have the power to kind of take it and things at the same time. And I think that's what happens here, man. I think both of these guys are ultra durable. Either Imavov's going to get the better on the feet over 25 minutes, being the better striker, probably the bit faster striker of the two, or Kyle Borralho is going to go out here and land enough takedowns and have enough control time to win the fight on the scorecards himself. So I'm pretty confident that this fight does see the scorecards. The bookies have it lined at over 4.5. They see the same thing. So I was trying to find a way to get some action on that. It's 2.34 units to win 2 units on that parlay. As far as my pick goes, I think Nasruddin Imavov, they're both riding a streak right now. Borralho's, I think, 7-0 in the UFC, but I don't think his competition has been all that stellar, man. I think Imavov stud across the better guys. If this was a 3-round fight and this was the price tag, I'd be slamming Imavov, man. But I think it gets tricky in the championship rounds with Kaio's ability to land takedowns. So I'm going to switch my pick. My gut's been telling me Kyle Borralho is going to win a decision all week, so that's what I'm going to stick with, man. I think he's going to do enough on the takedowns to get his hand raised. 2 fight minutes.
Yeah, so sure, I think it's going to get tricky in the later rounds. I can agree with that. But I think early the wrestling the counter wrestling of Nasruddin Imavov is kind of being overlooked. And then the striking, I just think he's a clearly better striker. So for the first 3 rounds, I think he wins that more often than not, which if and when this goes to the judges' scorecards, he should get the nod, probably a 48-47. But in a matchup where we have one guy with plus money and I also see him winning 3 out of the 5 rounds, I think I have to go with him, dude. I mean, yeah, this is close. Yeah, it's going to get a little bit hairy, but I think there's potential for him to time something really nice. I hope you do hit your over, but if anybody's hitting the under in the first 3 rounds, I think it's Imavov, and I think he catches Kaio shooting from way too far out. He's super athletic. We've seen him knock out a lot of good fighters. And he's in his hometown. I'm sure he's ready to put on a show. Give me Nasruddin Imavov here at plus money. I actually picked him in the fantasy league. I think he is the rightful favorite. I think, I agree with the grappling upside on Borralho, but it's only when Imavov gets tired. And, coming into this fight, knowing he's going for 5 rounds, I got to assume that he's prepared to do this. He's in the prime of his career. And I just see him winning more often than not. So give me him at plus money. It was him, Rinat Fakhretdinov, and I like Mason Jones and Axel Solo as well, but it was Trey Waters. Him, Trey Waters, and Rinat Fakhretdinov were my leans on the slight dogs. So
I like it. If you stayed with us this long, make sure to like and subscribe to the video. Appreciate all the support. And as always, we'll be back for next week.
Peace.